Now, lifeadministration.com presents the Life Administration Podcast. Here are your hosts, Leslie Loftus and Ryan Taylor.
You never get a second chance to make a first impression.
Well done. Well
So
done.
that never holds more true in the interview process. Okay, so now we really get to the questioning. There's going to be these general sort of bantering questions. Any interviewer worth their salt is going to try to get you to relax for a second. So understand that the first 3 to 5 minutes are going to be very light questioning. What's going on? How are you doing? How's the job hunt
Kind of
been
how we
going?
open this podcast.
Very much so. It's to disarm you, right?
Right.
It's to disarm the interviewee. It's to relax them, to get them to, again, reveal their true self. Okay, cool. So just know that that's going to be happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once that happens, they're going to shift gears on you and they're going to go into what we call behavioral-based questioning. Now, this typically goes one of two ways. They're either going to talk about, they're going to want you to bring up examples from your past. So the best way I can do this is to give you an example. So the example that I can think of right now is, Leslie, tell me about a time where you had conflict within a group, what that conflict was, who was it with, how did you resolve it, and what did you learn from it? Now, that's a really big loaded question.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? It's a big loaded question.
Objection.
And here's the thing.
Too many
They're not going to ask you like that.
Right.
But that's how they want you to answer. Okay? So what I'm saying is they're going to say, tell me about a time where you were involved in conflict.
And what'd you do about it?
And what did you do about it?
They're probably
right?
going to be simple about
So-
it. But,
right. It's a
but those are the who, what, when, and wheres that they want out of it.
Right. And what they want is well, in my last job, I can remember it was January of 2016. The last quarter had just closed and everyone commissions checks had just came out. And Sally's commission check seemed like it was much lower than Jimmy's. Well, she went to Jimmy and said, Jimmy, you were snaking my sales, right? And then Sally came to me, and then all of a sudden I had this turmoil on my team where we felt like we couldn't trust each other anymore because the sales were wrong. Well, unfortunately, what we did find out was it was actually a system glitch, right? So I had to bring this to my boss. We sat down and we talked about it for 15 minutes. And I said, do you think, Leslie, that it could be a system glitch? She said, you know what? Why don't you follow up with that? Okay, cool. I did. Before I did that, I went back and I communicated to Jimmy and Sally about what my next steps were. And on and on and on we go, right? You're telling a story. You're not answering a question and saying, well, yeah, there was this one time where there was this problem with commission checks and I got the problem fixed and made everybody happy.
Yeah, that's not enough.
That's not it.
That's not enough people.
Want to draw people
and also,
in.
There's no verification on this.
No.
It doesn't have the ring. There's not enough detail for it to ring true.
Right. And an anecdote is not proof. But
right.
What it is much more convincing. Mm-hmm. Right? So you get to go through, you draw out these examples. Who, what, where, when, how. Most importantly, what would you have done differently? Because nobody is going to answer this question perfectly.
Right.
Right?
Now, will they follow up with the question of what would you have done different?
No,
or should you throw it in?
You know what?
And we ended up resolving it by doing X, Y, and Z. But you know what? A few months later, I was thinking we had something similar coming up. And really, why wasn't...
Right. So
why wasn't necessary? So one, you've said you've solved it. You've got it done. But also, you learned from it.
And honestly, in that last example that I just gave, I actually threw something in there that I knew would be bad. Uh-huh. So the example is Sally and Jimmy, they were upset about their commission check, and they brought it to me. And then I brought it to my boss. No.
Go back to Sally and Jimmy.
What I learned was I should have gone right to the tech department. I shouldn't have gone to my boss. My boss has empowered me to take care of this. That's why I'm here. That's why I work here. I don't need to go to him. Right? No, instead, I go to the tech department right away and say, I just want to make sure that there was no kind of glitch, that there weren't any glitches with this situation. Right? So now what I would have done differently that time is honestly, I didn't need to go to him. I knew what to do. Right. I was looking for confirmation, but honestly, I could have just gone and do that. Oh my gosh. So now what I've done is I've answered this question with detail and I've shown that I learn from every situation that I'm in. Wonderful.
One, you can handle it. Two, you can learn from it.
What you're trying to do is get them to ask you as few questions as possible. The more questions they ask you, the bigger chance of you making a mistake is. That's the facts, right?
Yep.
So if you're in an interview that lasts 30 minutes and they ask you 4 to 5 questions, and all of a sudden they realize they're at the 25-minute mark, you've had the halo effect, you've answered the way that I've just talked about with the who, what, where, when, how, why, and what have I learned? They're going to go, oh, we don't have time for the rest of these questions. What questions do you have for us? Now you get to really shine. Right now we're talking about last impressions.
Okay.
So you get to ask these questions about the interviewer. How long have you been at this company, Leslie? How did you
Which is,
start
by the way,
off?
totally relevant for you to ask, because turnover at a company is something that you would want to know about. Like, so I think some people think that those kind of throwback questions or turn it around questions are a little aggressive.
No.
But no, not
Couldn't
at
be
all.
further from the truth. The reality is people love it when when people show interest in them. And so when someone would ask me the question, how did you get started at this company? How long have you been here? What do you like about working here? All those kinds of things. I couldn't wait to answer them because I wanted to give them a positive image of the company. Right? So now all of a sudden, me as the interviewer, I am now trying to sell the company to this person that's come in because honestly, I really want them to work here because their interview went so well.
And also it solidifies the halo effect because you're living into, you're power posing your way into this person's now already kind of got it in their head of, oh, I want them to come here.
You've mapped out you got your value statements, right? You've got your mission statements, all the things, the company's DNA, all those things that we've talked about.
Throw out a few of those words or phrases. Maybe not quote it, but now you've read the mission statement and you know what they're about, so you can tailor your comments and questions to that.
An easy one is, hey, you know what? I saw your mission statement online. I really felt like I identify with it. Can you talk to me a little bit about how in your daily work routine that you actually live that out and walk that out? Hello? Like, that's going to be amazing. They're going to want, because they have corporate seminars on this. They train on it. They love to tell you about how they do it.
And here's another thing I think for interviews, because if you are going through lots and lots and lots of interviews, there is an element of this that they are trying to sell you on the company as well. So if your interviewer isn't responding well to the company, if they're really kind of dead, all of a sudden now you've turned around and maybe you don't want to work there. I mean, Absolutely. It might just be it might be your signal that this is not a great work environment, and you know what? Move along.
Yep. Definitely. Absolutely. If you're not picking up the positive.
Interviewing is a two-way street.
Absolutely. You have to pick you pick your job doesn't pick you, right? Back to what my grandfather said all those years ago, that still applies right stinking now. So, all right. So we're going to assume that you've gone through the behavioral based questioning. You have been so specific, it hurts, right? Like you have to think about, when, like, I don't have to be that specific. No, you have to be that specific and then more, right? Time, date, people, what you've learned, how you would have done it differently, all of those sorts of things. At the end of the interview, you're turning it back around them. You're saying, hey, tell me about everything there is to know about this company. And you have questions that are relevant because you've learned the DNA of the company. Right. Okay, cool. We got it. So now at the end of the interview, you thank them. Listen, I'm sure that this is exactly what I would say. I'm sure you have 25 other interviews today. You exaggerate, whatever, it doesn't matter. I just want to say thank you for taking the time to meet me and hear my story.
Really, there's a thank you can go
a very, very long way, right? There's always this awkward thing when an interview's done, when the time is up, that it's like, okay, do they know that we're done? It's like, okay, like, all right, well, that's it. And say, okay, thank you so much for taking the time to interview me and learning what I'm all about. I'm sure you're going to have 25 other interviews today, but I promise you, there's not going to be another one like me. Be bold. Be confident. Say something like that makes you stick out, right? This is your last opportunity. It's your last impression to say, bam.
And then proper handshake.
Proper handshake, which we
can
have
go
a
to one of the
mini cast
casts on. Right, exactly.
Lifeadministration.com. All right. And that's under the modern etiquette. Maybe that's why it does so well. Anyway.
Everybody wants to know how to do a proper handshake.
Yep. Proper handshake, eye contact, right? That you're not aggressive, that you're leaned into them. It's a partner to partner kind of handshake, and be bold. Say what you're going to say. And say something that stand out. Okay, so now we have done that interview. Here's the reality is that you're going to have to do multiple interviews after this. They're all going to follow the same format. The only thing that's going to be different is typically they're either going to be longer or they're going to be shorter, right? They're not going to look exactly the same as the first one. Depends on the company. But you're going to get into more technical things of the job.
I was getting ready to say, from what I hear from people that are interviewing, there are more events of, like the fourth interview is a technical interview where you're given, especially if you're into programming or something, you're given a programming task. They are, they slave into your computer and they watch you. They watch you in real time work through it.
Definitely.
Or they give you a math problem and they watch you work, whatever it is. They give you some sort of task and see how you accomplish it.
And again, this is about being confident in your ability, right? You don't apply and you don't get to that point unless, number one, they think you can do it. Because if they didn't think you could do it, you wouldn't be at that interview. You got to remember that, right? So you might be the only person going to the fourth interview or the third interview. There might not be a bunch of people in that at that level. They're dotting their I's and crossing their T's, making sure this is the person for us. Okay, cool, got it. But all the same things apply. You're going to still get asked questions. You're still going to want to respond in detail. You're still going to want to look like $1 million. You're still going to want to learn the company's DNA even more. If you're going to a second interview, you're going to a third interview, you can ask, the first interviewer, would you know who might be interviewing me the next time? So now I get a name. Now I can maybe look them up on LinkedIn. How long have they been at the company for? What are the other things that they've done? Oh, I saw that you've done blah, 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 blah. Get the other interview to start talking about that person, right? So you're just getting more information. The more that you can get them answering your questions, the better off you are going to be, right? You're just flipping the script on these guys. That's the crux of it. Okay, so now you've got the interview, or you've
gone through all the series
you've gone through the process. Let's talk about follow up, right?
We're going to contact you next week.
Right, we're going to contact you next week. Awesome, cool. Don't wait for them. Okay. So let's say I interview on a Thursday, and they say they're going to contact me next week. You call them Monday morning. Say, hey, I know that you guys said that you're going to contact me next week. I was just so excited about the interview. I felt like it went so well. And then I know that that's a place that I want to work. So I'm just following up with you. I'm not going to be a pest. I just wanted to put myself on your radar. That's it. That goes a million miles.
It puts you back on the radar.
Yep. And because you don't know what happened the rest of the day. You don't know if someone's mom got sick. You don't know if a
global pandemic broke out.
You don't know if COVID-19 comes out. So you don't know. Well, hopefully you know if that happens.
But I mean, there's just all sorts because goodness, it's like when you meet somebody or what, okay, and we're going to talk next week, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, and by Wednesday you're like, okay, well, I'm next week, but did they mean a next full week as in Thursday? And then
no, you take control.
Right.
You take control. Now, if you call and they say, oh yeah, hey, totally hear what you're saying, and then they say, we'll call you later on the week, then you wait the time schedule, right? The first time you don't even care what they say. You're calling them within
just
48
to put yourself
hours.
Back on the radar.
You don't even care. After that, you listen, and then at the end of that time frame, whether it's 48 hours, whether it's a week, you're right back on it. You call. You show up. Whatever you want to do. Whatever. I like the call more than the show up. The show up is a little bit off-putting.
Well, I was getting ready to say you can be. There seems to be a fine line here of being a little bit. So the only thing you're trying to do is just kind of get your name back under. Hey, remember I'm here.
And you're just showing that I care. I care about this organization. I care about the interview, and I want to work here. That's it.
Right.
All right. So now let's talk about negotiation. Let's say that you get the job.
Okay.
Okay. And this is where I think a lot of people go wrong is as someone who has hired a lot of people, as someone who has had to maintain a multi-million-dollar budget, I lowball everyone because I have a budget to make.
Mm-hmm.
I have an operating expense to make. Labor, by the way,
So
is
if the range for this position is 60 to 70, you always offer 60.
I'm going 60 because there's a chance that they're going to say yes.
Mhm.
Most 80% of people do.
Mhm.
And if they come back and try to negotiate, I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to do it because at the end of the day, I'm not thinking about this person's value. I'm thinking about I have a labor budget that I have to meet.
Because you've already decided to hire them.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
And so unless you're actually in like a kind of a bidding war
Yep.
and you know that this person's getting another offer from some other
Right.
company and you really need, but that's a much higher level than
Right.
most interviews.
Right. That's middle management and higher, right?
Right.
But when
Exactly.
When
That's
you're,
a different ball
Yep.
game. But when you're talking about starting level stuff, you already know you want to hire them, so you're just giving, okay, this is what we pay for this. 60.
I can like feel Sean in his seat right now, like stewing. Like I can, he's like corporate greedy, da da da, right? Because
he doesn't look very stewy.
But this is, I mean, no, but this is like we would have these kinds of conversations back in the day, and you say, well, listen, man, I'm just trying to do my job to the best of my ability, and the reality is that most companies have some sort of profit sharing, operational bonus sharing, where like as much money as you make for the company, you get a little chunk of that. So
Okay.
if you come in under
See,
budget,
I've worked at law firms, so
right? So
and
let's
you have to be a partner to get into that. Yeah.
right. So let's say if my operating budget is $1 million
Mm-hmm.
and I came in at 900,000, the company might say, you know what, we're going to give you 10% of what
the
you missed.
leftover. Right.
Bang, here you go. Thank you. So you're always trying to come in, right? You're always trying to come in that way. Now, one thing that any good interviewer won't do is you're just not going to let talent slip through your fingers, right? So if someone says, hey, you know what? Hey, I'm going to offer you $60,000, and you come back and say, well, actually, you know, I was doing a lot of research, and I think my experience dictates that I should receive $65,000. Okay, most people, we have a window that we get to just do on our own.
Right.
If you come back and you're way above the window, you might need to bring someone in from the next level and get approval for that sort of thing if you're hiring someone at that. Or they might just say, well, you know, the top that I can do is 70,000. And then don't be a jerk. Meet them in the middle, right? Hey, you got more than the initial offer. Celebrate. Congratulations. Woohoo! I'm getting 70 instead of 60. Congratulations. Wonderful. And that's really the crux of it. And then you start your job, and all of the things that you brought into the interview, that being confident in who you are, making sure that you say what you're going to do and you do what you're going to say, and that you stood out in the group interview process, and that you're not afraid to speak your mind. You bring all of those things to the first day on the job. And then you bring them every single day after that. Right? Be who you are, say who you're going to be, and then just do that. Do those things, right? The one thing, and I'm going to cover it very, very quickly, is internal interviews go a little bit differently. And so what I mean by that is I'm up for a promotion now.
Within the same company.
Right. I'm up for a promotion. I know the people that I'm interviewing with. Those interviews typically tend to be a lot more lax, and those people know you. So there's a lot less of the formality of who, what, where, when. Like the behavioral based questions typically are not as intense.
They've seen you in action.
They've seen you in action, right? And so they're going to be presenting scenarios to you like, what would you do if this happened? What would you do if that happened, right? Every single field is going to be different.
This recommendation that you had for the other one is generally the same. Do they give as much detail as possible?
And so what you do is that you look at the job that you're interviewing for. So let's say this happened to me. I was a district manager and I wanted to become a director of operations. And then from a director of operations, I wanted to become a regional manager. And so I just looked at that person. I thought about the things that they dealt with. I thought about how I was involved in the things that they've dealt with, how they reacted. And I formed my answers off of things that even if I don't know the constraints of the job, maybe I don't know the rule set of the DO and what they can do, but I think that they should have done this way. I think that they should have handled this conflict this certain way.
And you got that from your own so your
'Cause you've been in
research
it.
there.
You've been in
your
it.
research there is your own eyes and your own experience.
Also, the next part of this is find somebody to be your mentor. So we talked earlier about having these mentors of relatives and things like this. My career would not have been what it was if it wasn't for this man named Larry Plotnick. He now is a senior vice president at Amazon, but he was the CEO of Hollywood Video at the time, and I was a lowly store manager. But he came into that store, and I showed an interest in him, and he took me under his wing, and that was the end of it. My story was
But y'all
written.
kind of hit it on. Like, it was a little bit organic. Like,
Yeah,
like you can't necessarily say,
he
you
said
know what,
we-
I want that person to
Yeah.
be my mentor as you're walking in the door for your first day.
Definitely. But his quote to me was the first time he met me, he said, we either have to promote this guy or fire him. One of the two. Because like I was who I was and I was ready to go. And I was looking for someone to teach me. And you should always have a professional mentor that is levels above you. Now, I'm not talking about your boss. Your boss is not your mentor.
No, that's
your mentor
usually-
should be your boss's boss. you know, I'm serious though, right? It should be someone
Or
removed.
the level of your boss's boss in a different department, whatever. It is.
But like,
exactly.
but like in that case, like my mentor was everybody's boss. You know what I mean? And so you can't be worried about when it comes to your own personal development and moving up to the next level about stepping on other people's toes. You work hard, you do your thing, you never chuck anybody under the bus, but you put yourself
But you're not
out
going
in
around
front.
stomping on people's
No,
toes just because
no.
I don't want you climbing the ladder with me.
because you're going to get yours, right?
But
I have
it's a bit more of be right, make sure you're right, and then go along. And
Yep.
yes, when you're doing that, there's probably going to be some toe stepping.
I'm gonna leave. I'll leave you guys with this final story about internal promotion and not stepping on people. That when I was at 24 Hour Fitness, I was looking to get promoted into, I can't remember what role, but I was looking to get promoted, and we went on a trip to Hawaii. It was called the Chairman's Club, and the company paid for us to go, and they were announcing who got this promotion in Hawaii. Okay. And the person that I was going against was one of those people that would backstab you, that they would step on you, that they would find a way to manipulate, right? And do all the dirty things.
Right.
Well, that person got the job. I was devastated. I was in Hawaii with my wife. It was one of the most awful moments I can ever recall. I was furious, absolutely reckless, crazy, like almost lost my mind.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, my boss's boss walked into the elevator as I was venting to my wife after, like, while it was going on. It was not a good look for me. Not a good look. In any case, I eventually got promoted to that level just by hard work. She got there first. That's fine. But then a day of reckoning came, and our company consolidated a region. And when that happened, every single person in my office got fired except for me, because I always kept my nose clean. I never caused any trouble. I always worked hard. Everybody else had these things where it was like, and this is from the president of the company telling me after the fact. This is 100% true, where they would say, well, this person there was always a sense of this with them. Or, yeah, they worked hard, but they gossiped a lot. Or, yeah, you know what? Maybe they did it a little bit cleaner than you, but, you know, there was just something about their ego. So,
Okay, well, then that gets me to one question
yeah.
that we haven't touched on here. So while you're in the interview process and everything, background checks
Yes.
and or social media, like,
Oh my goodness.
yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
In 5
Yeah.
seconds or less.
Yeah,
No,
in
I mean,
5
those
seconds.
are kind of big, but those background checks seem to be more significant now than they were then. And they seem to be a little bit easier because there's such a public record of the kind of person that you are.
Don't post anything on social media that you wouldn't want in your interview.
Jim's rule is actually, if you don't want to read about it in the front page of the Wall Street Journal, you don't need to be doing it.
Yeah. I mean, it's that simple. Like, all that stuff is out there. I've disqualified interviews.
Mm-hmm.
Great people in the interview that I thought we were going to hire, and then you go on their social media page.
And that's usually done in the later stages because the company, especially if it's a larger company, is going through and doing a background check. And by a background check, I mean they're going through and they're looking at your resume and they're making sure that, say, you worked where you said you worked.
Right. Exactly.
That you went to the school and you graduated from the school that you said you graduated from.
Absolutely.
And also, it is standard operating procedure now for corporations. They go through and they check your social media accounts.
Yes, that's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm looking at this time that we've gone. Oh yeah.
Are you the reigning champ for the long talker?
I am reigning champ for the long talker.
Yes.
Listen, I told everyone in here before we started that I was pumped and that this
I take a lot of flack for being the long talker.
I knew this is gonna have to be a two-parter.
There was a lot of good information in here. I mean,
our podcasting format doesn't even support podcast over 60 minutes.
Are we over 60?
Yeah, we're an hour and 2 minutes. So we got a little ways to go. We don't have a little ways to go, but we'll have to break it into a two-parter.
Okay.
But
that works. 2 30-minute parters. You'll be fine.
This is one of those things.
Fix it in post, Ryan.
Fix it in post. This is one of those things that the greatest joy in my life when I was in the corporate world was hiring somebody new. Because I knew, and you've had people that have gone through it recently, that when they get the job, it changes everything for them. Mm-hmm. There's this moment where you're trying to make it, and then all of a sudden you do make it. And the tools that we have talked about today is the difference between not making it and making it. Once you're inside the company, you're going to think to yourself, how do I get that next level? How do I get to that next job?
Fall back on some of these same tools.
The same things. Be who you say you are. Keep your nose clean. Don't gossip. Just do your job, do it well, and do it with a smile on your face and a song in your heart, baby.
There you go.
And you will go as far as you possibly, as far as you want to go.
All right.
So,
one final question then for you.
We've already gone this far.
Yeah, exactly. If we're already got it busted in two, well then fine, I'm going to ask all the questions I want. So you've gone through all the interviews and you get the call that you got the job or you didn't get the job, one or the other.
Yeah.
Etiquette.
Yeah. So I think
what do you say?
The correct response, in my opinion, is to show genuine enthusiasm.
Okay.
You don't want to sound surprised.
Oh my God, I can't believe I got that one.
Wait,
yeah, exactly.
You guys sure you dialed the right number? No, you don't want to do that, but you want to show general enthusiasm. You want to say how excited you are to start and that you can't wait to get going. If they don't choose you, I would ask why. It's well within your right to say, I've been interviewing for X amount of days, or this is my X amount of interview.
I went through 5 interviews with you. I would
love some feedback.
Right.
I would love some feedback. Now I'm going to be honest with you. You might not get real, actual feedback. But if you can read in between the lines of what the person's saying, so maybe they say something like, well, we really loved your energy, but when it came to your ability to demonstrate high proficiency in the technical aspects of the job, we were left with some questions. That really means we liked your personality, but you didn't know what you were doing. Okay,
or you didn't have the skills you needed.
Yeah, exactly, right. And so you need to take that information, go back, and you have to have a self-reflection period, right? Mm-hmm. Interviewing is hard work. I get it. Getting the call that you haven't gotten the job is awful. I was on a grand stage, like I just told you in that last story, not getting the job, and I lost my mind. And it took one of my mentors.
Did you hold it together while you were on the stage?
Yeah, while I was on the stage, I held it together, and I congratulated the person, and I wished them well.
As Lauren is sitting here going, "Oh my gosh, she's a bomb about to go off."
Oh, she was very, very upset, and I just got back to the hotel room and completely lost my mind. because of her personality, right? Because of the things that I had seen her do and the things that I'd seen her say. And she was always the person that you never wanted to tell any kind of detail to, because she would use it against you somehow, some way. Yeah. Oh, it was rough. But the story goes, she got hers, and everyone in my office got theirs, because there was a little bit of that mentality. It was only there were two people left. It was me, and it was the other guy, the director of facilities. And we were the two guys that was like, this guy's got my back. You know, it was the only person I knew that had my back in that entire place. Anyway, so
be gracious enough, ask for a little bit of feedback, but you don't want to close the door.
No, you don't want to close the door.
Bridge.
Hey, keep me in mind for other positions. Do you mind if I follow up with you in a couple weeks to see if you have something else open? This, that, and the other thing. No, you're just gracious about the opportunity. Because you have to think about the hundreds of people that didn't even get an interview. Right. Getting the interview is a significant step. After that, whatever happens. And my hope is that you use the tools that we talked about today, and that we use the examples that we talked about today to get the job and to make it, to get to the level. Don't be consumed with money, though. It's not, you'll always want more. The more money you make, the more money you'll spend. It's not about a dollar amount. It's not about reaching a dollar amount. It's about having peace in your heart and being thankful for what you do.
After you get to the regular, you can put food on the table.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
but after you get to that certain level.
But some people say like, oh, I have this job and I make $80,000, and if I can only make 6 figures, well, I promise you, like, that's not going to be the thing that changes your life.
No.
You know, you're going to do the math in your paycheck and you go, well, what's an extra $200 a month?
Right.
I mean, it's something, but it's
not. It's not.
But
nothing.
it's not happiness.
Right.
You know. So that's it. That's all I got. I got.
All right.
Bring us home, Leslie.
I have to do the closing now. All right. There's a reason we don't let me pitch. Anyway, so where can you find us? First of all, you can find all of this stuff at lifeadministration.com, where we have all of our episodes, show notes, some bios about us, and you can pretty much get to everything that you need to get to in our sphere that way. Ryan, where can we find you?
I am on Twitter at Ryan Tailon, RyanTaillon.
Man has trouble spelling his last name. All right. And I am also on Twitter at Leslie Loftus TX. Then I we have show notes boards on Pinterest. I do announcements and mini casts on Instagram at Life Administration. And, you can get both of us an email. We are Leslie at Life Administration and Ryan at Life Administration. If you would like to email us questions, happy to answer.
Yep. And if you're listening to this on Google Play, Spotify, or Apple Music, please go ahead and give us that 5-star rating and leave some comments. We really, really appreciate it, and it definitely helps us out. If you're listening to us on YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe, and please leave comments in the comment section, and we'll get back to you and respond back to you as quickly as humanly possible. Take us home, Les.
I forget how you sign off. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
And we'll
see you next time.
In the next one, but close enough.
Yeah, okay.
Bye, guys. Take care.
Bye.